Hey everyone, so I thought I'd do a Q&A for everybody. I got a lot of questions from the survey I put out for when we're doing the open house. So I figured I'd go through the most popular ones and try and provide some answers for you guys. So I've got a list here of the different ones, so I'll just basically just get underway and see how we go. So the first question I've had is, when will it fly? Well, obviously, you see there's a lot of work still to do. But we're doing our best. I'm hoping that towards or by the end of this year, most of the fuselage will be together and all the systems will be pretty much installed, and the avionics will be fairly well along as well. And the guys here can begin working on putting together the wings. So there's a chance that by maybe the end of February into early March that we may have the wings together and be looking, towards getting it moved up to the airport and preparing it for the first flight. So that's kind of where we are. But as you know, with everything, and if you've ever built a house, there's so many questions that still need to be answered, even just little things. How does this fit in there, and how does that, do we have to fabricate a special thing for this or something for that? So it'll always blow out a little bit, but I think it's definitely going to be in the first half of next year. I'm going to do my best to try and make that happen. So the next thing was, is your original price estimate still looking good? Well, it's probably going to go up initially, and mainly because of the labor involved in doing all this carbon fiber work. And when I got into this, I didn't know anything about doing this process, and I've just based it on estimates that I'd heard from people who are building their own kit aircraft about how many hours it would take. And I basically used that number of hours and multiplied it by the cost per hour for labor and all that sort of stuff to figure out what the cost would be, and added all that up with the cost of materials and the cost of the engine and all that avionics and all that good stuff. And then of course factoring in that we were trying to get some good price breaks by doing volume, and I think ultimately the $130,000 price is doable, but it's going to take a long time to get there, because it means bringing a lot of things in-house. It means having a large company with a lot of employees that can do all these things in-house, and it also means getting a lot of volume out the door and being able to take advantage of those price breaks. So initially the price is probably going to go up. I've kept it at $130,000 on the website, mainly kind of as an incentive goal for us to keep seeing where we can bring the price down in every different aspect, instead of just sort of saying, well, let's just let it blow out to whatever, and so then it doesn't matter that this is going to cost more, that's going to cost more. So it's still a goal is to try and keep the price down, and we may have to do something like what Lancer was doing with all of their stuff. Back in the day was, they had all of their carbon fiber being manufactured overseas in the Philippines, and with the intent of saving a lot of money, and they did, and it was successful. So that may be something we have to look at in the future. So what steps are being made to begin production? Well, I'm not doing anything right now to begin production. The goal is to get the prototype flying, and once that's and obviously make it as good as we can, and then see what kind of people approach us in terms of investments or partnerships or whatever, just to see what sort of things that we can put together, as opposed to just basically trying to grow our company one employee at a time, which would be slow and tedious and difficult to do, in that it's hard to find skilled people who know how to do this stuff or know how to do anything. And ultimately we could probably pick up a bunch of people from some of the other companies out there like Cirrus, if we had a good product, and also if we make an attractive offer to them. But I think the best way to scale, or to basically scale up to production, is to try and see if we can partner with some companies that can build various different subcomponents and things for us, and use that as a sort of launching pad to being able to start producing aircraft more quickly than just slowly growing a company one employee at a time. So that's kind of what my thinking is. But again, if we get the prototype flying and it's really good, it will attract a lot of attention. And we've already had quite a bit of interest from different companies that have shown that they'd like to invest in what we're doing. And so that's something that we'll be looking at. And so probably we'll still be growing the company, but again looking for partnerships where we can sort of outsource a bunch of things initially in order to speed up the whole process. So let's see, flight testing program outline. I haven't announced any of this prior to this, but we actually have a former F-16 test pilot who works with flight safety. He's been working part-time on putting together a test program for us, so that's actually all done and documented and basically ready to go. And right now we're in the process of putting together the various different telemetry that we're going to put on board the prototype, things like position sensors and stress sensors and accelerometers to pick up things like flutter and stuff like that. So we are working on all that. So when the prototype is ready to fly, it won't be a case of like, oh, okay, let's now think about the test program. We're already going to be there and have it all dialed in and ready to go as soon as the prototype's ready. Someone asked about airworthiness certification process of the Raptor. Again, it's an experimental, so we'll just be getting an airworthiness certificate for the prototype initially, and then we'll be applying for an experimental kit certificate through the FAA. And you can Google that more if you want to find out more, and I'll tell you more about it later. Once we get into it. So someone asked, when in production, how many planes can be produced yearly? Again, that depends on how we scale up the business, what sort of partnerships we do, and how many people we can basically throw at the problem. So I really don't want to say that. Just to give you some idea, as far as I'm aware, Cirrus was doing 250 aircraft a year, and at Oshkosh I believe they did announce that they were scaling up to 400 per year now. So it is possible to do those sorts of numbers if you have enough people and you have everything dialed in. And I'm not saying that we're going to get this thing going if we're going to be doing 400 aircraft in the first year. It's not going to happen. But I'm saying it is possible to get there if you have the right management and people know what they're doing. So let's see. When will I be able to buy a lower position online? I've had a lot of people asking that, and as far as I know, nobody has really wanted to sell their positions. I haven't tried to put anything together yet to allow people to sort of buy into a lower position, but I imagine what's probably going to happen is the price is going to go up somewhat. There's going to be a bunch of people who are going to say, well, it's too rich for my blood right now, I want to get out, and they'll probably sell their positions, and probably just for what they put it in, the $2,000, and allow other people to move down. So yeah, initially some people are going to not be able to buy in because the price is going to go up, but other people will be able to move up the line. So anyway, that's kind of what's going to happen there. Do you anticipate any problems procuring more than 1,000 Audi engines? Well, the goal here is to try and get this flying with the Audi engine, and if it works out really well, go through some back channels, and I already have some contacts who have contacts within Audi, and maybe we can get somebody who would want to champion what we're trying to do and provide engines for us that are already dialed in and are doing most of the things we need to do, so we don't have to go and customize them all ourselves. And if for some reason they don't want to deal with us and they just it's too much of a hassle or whatever to provide a low number of engines, over in Europe there's a huge number of these engines just sitting in warehouses where they've come out of cars that have been in an accident. And so those ones, and there's no need for them. Nobody wants them because they're only a couple of years old, and why would you go and replace your engine in a car that's only a couple of years old? It's not going to be worn out. So they're just sitting there, and they're basically stockpiled for later on. We can go and pick them up right now for a really good price and just have a whole bunch of them just put in a container every month and just shipped over here. So I don't think it's a problem getting those engines and getting them for a decent price. And then obviously, we'd have to do all the work or sub out all the work to, put the turbos on and all that good stuff. What are the plans? Now it's starting to get into sort of weird little questions now. What are the plans for a sound system in the cabin? I was just going to put just a speaker in the overhead console, but I couldn't really find one that was a nice real flush mount. So probably what we're going to do is just put a couple of regular type speakers in the back wall there, and at least for when you're sitting on the ramp or whatever, having some music playing, if you're relaxing in the aircraft, something, it may be all right. And depending on how quiet it ends up being, you may be able to get away without having a full-on headset on and actually just play music in the cabin. So we'll see. We're just going to try it, and like a lot of things, you just try it out and see how it works. Okay, so the next thing is the better than free ice protection system described on your website still on the menu. That's referring to the heating of the leading edges of the wings and the foreplane, and I believe, yeah, we were going to heat the intake as well, which that'll actually be just like electrical heated on there. But the heating of the leading edge of the wings is still something you want to do, but not for the prototype, just because it's probably such an involved thing initially to get it all dialed in, and it will just slow the whole process down of getting the prototype flying. So we'll hold off on that and maybe do it on the second set of wings, you know, to see how it works out. But we have to make sure that we have enough heat in the engine. We're already going to be heating the fuel in the strakes to stop that from gelling. So that's going to be drawing some heat from the engine using a heat exchanger. And then, of course, putting the heating air conditioning system in the aircraft too, we're pulling that heat, you know, for heating the cabin. Of course, if you're at 25,000 feet, it's going to be pretty cold up there, minus 50. And so even though the aircraft, you know, has a core all the way around it, which acts as insulation, you're still going to need heat in the cabin. And we're putting the pressurization that's coming in from the turbochargers. That's where the bleed air is coming off, and that generally will be hot air coming into the cabin. So that may be enough, but we'll have to just see if we're going to need more heat coming in, you know, from the regular heating system that goes, you know, through the AC unit that we're putting in here. So anyway, that's the answer to that one. Is the Raptor still going to have the fold down stairs originally planned? Okay, so what was planned here was basically hinges here, and with a stair that was sort of tucked up into the inside of the door when the doors were closed, and then the door would open up, and then the stair would basically just fold down kind of like on a gas strut and be about here, so you could step up. And, you know, it's still plans for doing that, but I actually got a better idea, which, you know, needs a lot more work in terms of thought. But the problem that that we have here with this door design, you know, because the doors are so large, and I want to keep them large so it's easy to get in and out of the aircraft on, you know, on both sides. But the problem that ended up happening was, you know, we ended up having to have so many latches around here because of the pressurization, and, you know, every latch just adds more complexity. And I had thought originally about the idea of doing like a clamshell door where it sort of splits in the middle here, and, you know, the top half would come up and the bottom half would go down. But the complexity with that as well, sealing off here with a pressurized cabin, I was just like, oh, it doesn't seem as neat. But once all the door locks came into the picture, that didn't seem as neat either. So I've kind of gone back to the idea that I think for production we should switch the doors up and actually do a clamshell, because what would it mean? What it would mean is we can have two big hinges here and the two big hinges up here, and then a latch system in the middle here, just two big latches, and that's probably all we're going to need. We won't need all these other latches that we have all around here, and it'll work much better. And then when that door, the lower door opens up, that can actually have an integrated step into it, so it'll come down to a certain point and then basically stop, you know, probably with a cable or mechanical thing, so it doesn't sort of just flop in the wind type thing, and have a step on there. And so then, you know, you can use that to step in. But anyway, that's my thinking for where the doors should go for production. And, you know, along with that, this idea of having the frameless windows here and here is probably not going to be a great idea for production, because it just takes a lot of labor to get this all sorted out to make it fit. And we haven't even, you know, properly fit the doors in here yet with the glass on there, just to see what kind of reveal we're going to get there, what kind of gap, and just see if it works out. And the other problem that you have with doing the windows like this, I mean, it looks cool because you're going to get this seamless look all the way around here, but if you need to replace a window, it's much more difficult to do, because, you know, this is sort of bonded on the inside here and also on this side here, you know. The sort of, you know, up the top here, bonded on two different sides, so getting it out would be a real pain in the butt. Whereas if we change these door frames around and make it more traditional, so the glasses are purely just put on from the inside, then it's all only bonded on one side, and it's much easier to get it out to replace it. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts with the windows and doors there. And you know, again, that'll all, you know, come about once we see, you know, how difficult it ends up being with all these door locks and things like that. So let's see, what else we got here. Someone just asked if I ever had to change the windshield, and I just kind of mentioned that. That basically it would be a case on the prototype would be difficult to do, but if we change it around the windows, won't be any more difficult than doing it on a Cirrus or a Lancer or whatever, the same way that they do it. Okay, so let's see. Where are the front cup holders? I haven't actually designed that in yet. There's a bunch of different places that we can do them, have them sort of sticking out of the side of the console. there. They can sort of slide in and out of the console. They could be here, or we could put them in the doors or whatever. Anyway, it's one of those things that I just haven't got to because I got a million other things that are on my mind, and we'll have something sorted out eventually, and probably be like an automotive one that sort of slides out from somewhere, maybe slides out from the dash down here. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but anyway. Okay, so stability, longevity, and strength of the carbon fiber and the resin holding it together. How is it repaired? Well, you know, carbon fiber is a really durable product. You know, it doesn't sort of degrade over time or anything like that. So I'm not really worried about, you know, how long the airframe is going to last. It's probably going to last longer than, you know, you're going to fly the pants off it and it's going to get, you know, regenerated, and you don't have to worry about the problems like corrosion that you do with aluminum aircraft. So you know, it's going to last a long time. But in terms of repairs, it depends on what the damage is. I mean, if you have a bird strike on a leading edge of the wing, and you know you've got a big dent in there, you know, you can basically fair it out and you know, patch it over, and you know, basically just like you're doing any other type of you know, composite repair. So you know, it's not impossible to repair if you have something, but again, it's very strong too. So if you have a bird strike, you know, it's less likely to be dinged up than an aluminum aircraft. And with respect to the windshield, you know, this is 1/2-inch acrylic, and it's very raked back, as you've seen. And of course, the cabin is pressurized, so it's actually, you know, going to be under pressure holding it. So if you do hit a bird on this, there's a, you know, pretty good chance that it's just going to bounce off because of the thickness and the rake and the pressurization of the cabin. So it may not even, you know, crack the windshield if you had a bird strike.